Welcome everybody. It's a significant day for the Congress of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Nurses and Midwives. As the CEO of this organisation, I'm very proud to be at this point and under my leadership to be launching the Murra Mullangari cultural safety and cultural humility training. We actually have an MC who will be facilitating today's proceedings, and we're waiting on Trevor Thames to join us. And just while we're waiting, just wanted to acknowledge Rochelle Watson, who's one of our members and was actually present at the 1998 conference in Brisbane, and is one of our senior nurses in Queensland, and also just happens to have another skill to be a soul singer as well. So we thank Dr. Watson for welcoming us all in today. Before I begin, like to hand over to our president, Marnie Tuala, Bundjalung Nation, to commence with an acknowledgement of country. Thank you, Marnie.
Jingiwala, everyone. Thanks, Roy, and welcome everyone here today. I'm calling in from beautiful Yagal country that you can see the Maclean River, hopefully behind me there. Marnie Tuala, proud Murra Mullangari woman of the Bundjalung Nation. I'd like to pay my respect to each one of you in the country that you're calling in from today, unceded Aboriginal lands. I thank our old people, mine and yours, for the custodianship of our song, story and country over many thousands of years. I'd like to acknowledge the tragedies that have occurred across our country in recent times with the flooding, particularly across my beautiful Bundjalung country, to the Gudjambara, the Arawakal, the Githibal, the Widjabul, Wyabul and the Nyungle people of the Bundjalung Nation. My heart is with you, and I call on our ancestors to continue to give you strength, protection and to help us heal and heal country. So thank you. Welcome today. As Roy has said, it's a momentous occasion for CATSINaM, and it would also be remiss of me to not acknowledge our founding members, for those that are in the dreaming, for the legacy that they have left, for those that are with us to continue to guide us and to CATSINaM's vision. We honour you and thank you. Roy?
Thank you, Marnie, and thank you for joining us on country as well. I'd now like to go across to Dr. Karen Martin, who will lead us through a moment of respect. Over to you, Karen.
Yura, thank you, Roy, and Yura, everybody. I'm joining you from beautiful Yagara country, and I've got the privilege of just taking you through a special process that is unique to CATSINaM, and it's called the Moment of Respect, because any launch is actually a celebration. And for those of you who are midwives joining in, you'll recognise this as stage 4 of labour, the birthing. So we're considering this launch today, the very first presentation of this baby, this important baby, to the world. And thank you for joining us. So it's the coming together of people to now acknowledge and celebrate that at some point in time, someone had an idea, a vision, a conceptualization, or if I keep that midwifery metaphor going, the fertilization maybe. But they wanted to do something because they recognized that something just wasn't coming together. And it was to bring about change. Then the idea grew because it was seen as important and valued by other people. And so the numbers of people grew, and they put their minds and their hearts to the idea so that it would become a reality. That's why we're here together today, to now celebrate and give respect to the many, many, many people who were directly or indirectly involved in making the Murra Mullangari Introduction to Cultural Safety and Cultural Humility program an incredible and important reality. Therefore, this segment is called a Moment of Respect, where we now pause to acknowledge the past, those of the past and those of the present, which includes you here and those who will undertake the Murra Mullangari program, and those of the future, especially those who will benefit, and specifically Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Australians. We've chosen a widely known song. This time, a known songman, Mr. Archie Roach. So get comfortable in your seat. Hands in the hands, please. And know that today, in this launch, you're among many. Listen to the words and the messages the song holds for you, your practice and your role, and offer your moment of respect to those of past and present and future. Make links of what you're hearing in the song, and then indeed throughout the program, with regards to cultural safety and cultural humility, and begin that journey for your practice and your role, and even yourself. Right, I'm going to put up a little challenge. I want to identify 2 things from the song that you can put into action from today, and enter them in the chat box after the song's completed. And now, enjoy and listen.
Gather around, people, tell you a story, an 80-long story of power and crime. British Lord Vestey and Vincent and Gary were opposite men on opposite sides. Vestey was fat with money and muscle. Beef was his business, road was his door. Vincent was lean and he spoke very little. He had no bank balance, hard dirt was his floor. From little things, big things grow. From little things, big things grow.
Thank you very much, Karen. Thanks, Karen. Can you see my next slide?
Yes, we can.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. The Murra Mullangari program deliberately coincides to launch with the Close the Gap week this week, and it also coincides with the the next week coming International Day of the Elimination of Discrimination across the world. This was intentional to demonstrate that the work around cultural safety and education in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander health has been a very long journey for our old people and for our ancestors as well, a journey that goes back almost 5 decades to be specific. It was in 1989 that our elders and our ancestors first called for Indigenous health education to be embedded into health professional education. So quite a significant amount of time. So we're very fortunate to be in this position where we're presenting one of Australia's very first cultural safety and cultural humility programs for practicing nurses and midwives. So in the last few years, a couple of decades specifically, we've been spending a lot of time in embedding this type of education into undergraduate programs, and that work come more to fruition in 2015 with the launch of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Health Curriculum Framework. In 2018, we were fortunate enough to lead out on the contextualisation of that framework to the Nursing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Health Nursing and Midwifery Curriculum Framework. And this program was designed and developed in accordance with that curriculum framework. But it's the very first time that this program, a program like this has been done outside of the university sector, and a program that really sets the standard for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander health and cultural safety training, and adds the additional dimension that's unique to CATSINaM, and that's the aspect of cultural humility that Dr. Karen Martin will talk to further on. We're also particularly proud, and me personally as an Aboriginal registered nurse, and that this program privileges and acknowledges the gift of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander nurses and midwives to nursing and midwifery across this country. And in most of the programs that I've been involved in, the training has very much been designed and developed with the non-Indigenous nurse and midwife in mind. And this program absolutely acknowledges the value and, again, the gift that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander nurses and midwives bring to nursing and midwifery in this country. And although building the cultural safety, building culturally safe practice in nursing and midwifery is an important thing for us to do, it cannot continue to be at the detriment of increasing Australia's Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander nursing workforce, which unfortunately, as of 2019, is still sitting at 1.27%. Significantly lower than the vision held out by our elders and our ancestors from 25 years ago, and probably half of, and is half of where they wanted us to be. So we're proud that this program, and we certainly hope that when Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander nurses come into this program, that they see themselves and they see the value of what they bring to the workforce, because ultimately what we're trying to do in cultural safety and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander health, education and training for the nursing and midwifery workforce is the knowledge set that an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander nursing and midwifery workforce, for the most part, actually comes with. And irrespective of the quality of the training that we design and development, that 60,000 years of knowledge that runs through the veins of an Indigenous nursing and midwifery workforce, we cannot teach or put into a program. The program is also unique in that it also has a research program that wraps around it. So again, we've been delivering this type of education for 5 decades, with very limited research evaluation of the efficacy of that training. And although we know that indicators in Aboriginal health and the disparities between Indigenous people and non-Aboriginal people is getting wider in some areas, that this is the first training program outside of a university that actually deploys a tool to measure the impact and efficacy of this training on the learner. And within that tool, there actually is items that if you're an Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander participant taken in this training, that the tool also recognises the unique perspective that you come from as a First Nations person of this country. So we're very excited. We do hope that you join us on this journey. I understand that the enrolment's opened at 12 o'clock and we've already had our first person enroll into this program. Also just acknowledging that if you've got any expectations around this program, that you should probably leave them behind, because this is something that is very different to what's been done historically. The program really shifts the agenda from being about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, which is the cultural awareness element of Irahapati Ramsden's work, to very much being about the values and the beliefs that have been developed by both Indigenous and non-Indigenous nurses and midwives as being products of Australia's colonial history. And in particular, asking you to focus on how colonisation has impacted on your values and beliefs about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and in particular the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in which you provide care for. So culturally safe nursing and midwifery practice, clinically safe nursing and midwifery practice is not possible without culturally safe nursing practice, and clinically safe nursing practice that happens without culturally safe nursing practice is actually racism within our discipline, and something that we want to address and not continue to inadvertently perpetuate. So without any further ado, I wanted to now hand over to Aunty Matilda Williams-House, who's been a very staunch supporter of the work of CATSINaM, and we were very fortunate in that Aunty Matilda House actually gifted us the language name of Murra Mullangari, and we have a short video of Aunty Matilda sharing with us the meaning behind the name of Murra Mullangari. Thank you, Tom.
My name is Matilda House. I was born a Williams, and my country is Ngambri and also Walgaloo with Wiradjuri. And I want to thank CATSINaM for giving me the honour and the great pleasure of being here today to welcome you on country because of the name that I had given you, Murra Mullangari. When we talk about Murra, when we talk about the pathway to our health and well-being with Mullangari. Mullangari, Murra. Mullangari, Murra. So, you know, you can say it any way you like. It still means it's a pathway for good health, for good well-being. So that's what Mullangari is all about, the Murra of the pathway of good health and well-being.
Thank you, Auntie Matilda House. We've been very fortunate to have Auntie Matilda walk alongside us, and me in particular, since my commencement in the CEO role. And at the time in which I commenced, the CATSINaM head office was actually sitting on the Ngambri Ngunnawal country, and hence the reason why I've engaged with Auntie Matilda House, who offered safe passage for the work in which we continue. So we thank Auntie Matilda, and we now introduce to you Australia's Commonwealth Chief Nursing and Midwifery Officer, Adjunct Professor of Practice, Alison McMillan, who also features in Murra Mullangari as well, and she's sharing her commitment as the Chief Nursing and Midwifery Officer to cultural safety for nursing and midwifery in Australia. Thanks, Tom.
My name is Alison McMillan, and I'm the Commonwealth Chief Nursing and Midwifery Officer. And I'm recording this video on the lands of the Bunurong people, and I acknowledge them as the traditional owners of this land. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. My job is to deliver high-level policy advice to the Minister for Health and the executive and staff within the Department of Health. My office provides advice on the development of policies and program delivery to support the nursing and midwifery professions. Part of my job is to work with nursing and midwifery stakeholders to improve systems and processes both within and outside the Department of Health. Ensuring these systems are culturally safe for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people is critical to this work, which includes working with the Congress of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander nurses and midwives. Indigenous nurses and midwives. So I work with my colleagues in Indigenous health to make sure this is well understood. I regularly meet with committees that provide advice on issues related to nursing and midwifery, including the National Nursing and Midwifery Education Advisory Network, or NMEAN, and also the Nursing and Midwifery Strategic Reference Group, of which CATSINaM is a member. In 2019, the department published the Independent Review of Nursing Education, the Educating the Nurse of the Future report. And recently in 2021, we've commenced work on the first National Nursing Strategy. The Educating the Nurse of the Future report and the strategy will provide a framework for building and supporting of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders nursing and midwifery workforce. So further supporting better outcomes for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. The Department of Health's vision is better health and well-being for all Australians, now and for future generations. We aim to achieve our vision through evidence-based policy, well-targeted programs, and best practice regulation. But this is a vision that cannot happen for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people until cultural safety is entrenched across all health professionals. We know that a pathway to building the Indigenous nursing and midwifery workforce is to increase cultural safety practice for the wider nursing and midwifery workforce and the cultural safety of processes and systems. So I'm really pleased to support the Murra Mullangari Cultural Safety e-learning training, which is a key for the Australian nursing and midwifery profession and the pathway to better health outcomes for all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. But this is a new pathway, and this of course is the first step on that path. I encourage you all to participate fully in the training and that use your learning to ensure cultural safety is a part of your practice every day.
Thank you very much to Professor Millen for her contribution to the program. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce a founding member, CATSINaM matriarch, Aunty Dulcie Flower, who's of the Arub Nation. and also a member of the CATSINaM Inaugural Elders Circle, who passes on her apology. She was unable to join us today, but is also part of the Murra Mullangari program, and we're sharing one of the videos that are in the program with you today. Thanks, Tom.
Because of the nature of the work we do and because of the control that we have over people in our care within a hospital situation at a given time, we are in control of that person's life at that point in time. And there is a tendency to think that you know everything and that you're a nurse, so therefore you and people look up to you. They also think, you're a bit of a know-all. And you've just got to be careful that you don't come across or don't antagonise by being who you are and demonstrating your control. Because I used to feel sorry for people. I'd look at them and they'd come into hospital and willingly just indicated that, okay, here I am now, you're going to look after me. I thought, gee, if that was me, I think I'd be a little reluctant to be so willing to trust. And it's this question of trust, which is so valuable, that it's overlooked a heck of a lot. The trust people place, that nurses will look after them, and the disappointment when something goes wrong in their treatment and something goes wrong in the way they're treated, when they do expect to be treated culturally adequately, culturally correctly, and to be spoken to or addressed with respect, and their privacy and confidentiality maintained. In some cases it's not. So there's this huge, there's this whole question of just knowing exactly. It's something that you learn. You're not born with this. It's a whole learning process. You learn by your mistakes. Yes, you were right in saying that. And you learn by treading on people's toes when you don't mean to. You learn by blushing and having to apologise. You learn also by being publicly reprimanded in front of which is the most belittling experience you can have. And a way of reducing you down to sort of being the most junior sort of person in the whole group. Yeah, I think this is something that you really have to learn. It's not something you can perfect. It's not. It's just not. But you have to be aware of it and make an effort. And even then you can go wrong and still make mistakes anyway.
Thank you very much, Aunty Dulcie. We were very lucky to have Aunty Dulcie walk alongside us, but also to have her eldership, which was one of the highlighting factors from the pilot participants. Aunty Dulcie, as the first Torres Strait Islander nurse for the Redfern Aboriginal Medical Service, has a long history in working in Aboriginal health, and she very eloquently articulates the aspects of what cultural humility in nursing and midwifery is. So we thank Aunty Dulcie for her ongoing contribution. I would now like to introduce to you Adjunct Professor Annette Symes at the times in which we were recording. Annette was the presiding member of the Nursing and Midwifery Board of Australia. Unfortunately, the chair at that time was off work due to family commitments. So we thank Annette Symes for her contribution. And Annette shares a message with you about the role of Murra Mullangari and embedding cultural safety in nursing and midwifery regulation nationally. Thanks, Tom.
Hi, I'm Annette Symes, Presiding Chair of the Nursing and Midwifery Board of Australia. I'm speaking to you from the lands of the Bundjalung people. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and acknowledge that I am on land that has never been ceded, is, was and always will be Aboriginal land. I also acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands where nurses and midwives are meeting and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. Nurses and midwives are highly respected professional members of our community. The Nursing and Midwifery Board of Australia, or the NMBA, exists to ensure that that respect is upheld. The NMBA has a long-term partnership with CATSINaM in supporting all nurses and midwives to practice in a culturally safe way. The NMBA's codes of conduct require nurses and midwives to recognise the impact of colonisation and racism on the health of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander nurses and midwives. To provide care that is free of racism and bias and recognise the importance of family and community to health. The NMBA, along with other national boards and APRA, recognises that there is no safe healthcare without cultural safety. The Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Health Strategy Group leads our work in this area. The group consists of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander health sector leaders and representatives from accreditation entities, national boards, APRA, and the chair of APRA's Agency Management Committee. The group's agreed vision states, patient safety for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in Australia's health system is the norm, as defined by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Continuing professional development is how nurses and midwives maintain, improve and broaden their knowledge, expertise and competence and develop the personal and professional qualities required throughout their professional lives. On behalf of the NMBA, I thank you for the commitment to cultural safety and lifelong learning that you have shown by undertaking this course.
Too deadly. Good afternoon, team. All you mob out there. This is Trevor Tim here. I'm the MC, running late. Murray time, so I'm on time, so it's all good. Very good afternoon to you all. My mob, 1 year Gunga leader on my dad's side. That's Dulmiji, Mornington Island way. And my mother with me in spirit, Darnley Island. And also got a connection there with Auntie Dulcie. So big shout out to Auntie Dulcie. And love and good spirits go to you too. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners where I sit here today, here in Cairns on Yidinji country. Acknowledge all the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people, especially elders, past, present and emerging. Acknowledge Gimoi Walabara Yidinji mob and also SYG, Sovereign Yidinji government here in Cairns. A big shout out to you all and welcome to the Murra Mullangari introduction to cultural safety and cultural humility. And a very good afternoon to you all. I'd like to hand over to looking at the form here. Back to you, to Roy Ann West, CEO of CATSINaM. Kazi Roy.
Thanks very much, Trev. I want to thank Annette Symes, the presiding member. Our partnership with the NMBA has continued to go from strength to strength, and we're very excited about what the future holds in a partnership to ensure that CATSINaM's at the table in the development and the strengthening of professional standards for nurses and midwives, and also the supporting codes for those standards as well. Without any further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you next to Dr. Karen Martin. Dr. Karen Martin joined our team not long after I did. Karen and I have worked together previously, and when working alongside Karen, I realised the piece of the puzzle that was missing from Aboriginal health education and cultural safety education. And I was guilty of being a practicing nurse who was doing my best to be able to teach. But what Karen brings is a background in Indigenous education, and particularly one of our leading Aboriginal educators across the country, which has brought just a significant strength to the Murra Mullangari training and brings together both in Indigenous health, but also Indigenous education pedagogy as well. Thank you very much, Karen.
Hi. Yeah, thank you, Royanne. Thank you very, very much. Folks, it's an absolute honour and a pleasure to be involved in the development of the Murra Mullangari program. Believe me, these types of opportunities come only, you know, like a shooting star. And when they come, you hold on, you buckle up, and you're there for the ride and you contribute. So folks, I just maybe this is a buckle up moment, because I'm going to share with you some of those program factors that really have been given deliberate attention to this. And so first of all, it's an introductory program. So obviously 8 hours across 8 weeks, that we'll certainly be looking at follow-up programs. So don't be disappointed when you get through and say, I want more. It's meant to be introductory. And there are 3 modules. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail because we've got another very strong collaborator, Mr. Ganeshan Rao, who is going to take you through a demonstration of the platform. And so I'll talk about that notion that it's self-paced, but we'd recommend that, 8 hours over 8 weeks, that's a commitment of just 1 hour per week. And, that's a pretty good measure. But you can expect this to be different because it's actually not a training program. And I don't know if you were picking up on some of the points made by Auntie Dulcie and certainly Adjunct Professor Alison McMillan. You can expect the Murra Mullangari program to be different. So first of all, it's designed specifically for practicing nurses and midwives. So if we do get students, they might be finding, the approach that they may not have the experiential set or the practice based kind of level to engage, but we'd encourage them to do it, but maybe not just yet. And there's an understanding, of course, that you come to the program with an existing knowledge and skills, beliefs and expectations, and that many of you may have undertaken programs such as cultural awareness, cultural competence, or similar. So buckle up, because this is actually about cultural safety. It'll take you to the next level regarding cultural safety, and particularly a newly developed model that's unique to CATSINaM, unpacking that cultural safety and also cultural humility in nursing and midwifery practice. And very proud to say that it's informed by recent research and key literature. And here I particularly want to acknowledge and pay respect to Dr. Irihapati Ramsden, who was widely known for her work in nurse and midwifery education in Aotearoa, New Zealand. But the CATSINaM model, CATSINaM program, is contextualised to Australia, obviously, because it actually contextualises that in terms of its historical, political, social and cultural factors. It's where we are and how we do things here. But a high level of attention is being given to what we educators call rigour in the curriculum design, and also the teaching and learning approach. And yes, the assessment, there's some assessment that you'll do, but we have given so much attention to how that's done, you'll actually be thinking, that was the assessment? Oh, maybe I missed something. Anyway, Ganeshan will talk a little bit about that later, perhaps. Now, we've also included some practice-based scenarios, very important, and one that's called a practice-based reflection, where we have asked Auntie Dulcie, as you saw just a minute ago, to share some of her, I think it's 60 plus years of being a registered nurse, as well as someone who is just the personification of cultural humility. Everybody needs somebody like Auntie Dulcie in their life all the time. Now, some of these other special features that are included will be demonstrated later, but I want to really highlight that, as Royanne's pointed out, that the biggest attention has been given to how Aboriginal knowledges and therefore Aboriginal pedagogy have shaped the decisions that we've made. So there might be a point in time where you think you know, moving along nicely and you think, oh, is that wrong or is that different? That actually might be the point where we're slowing you down and getting you to engage. We're not training you, we're getting you to engage as a very strong principle of Aboriginal knowledge and Aboriginal pedagogy. And the Murra Mullangari program, therefore, for some, it will consolidate what you already know about cultural safety and cultural humility. For others, it might mean that you're doing some unlearning, and with that, some relearning. But ultimately, the Murra Mullangari program, and yes, in 8 hours, it's going to be about the transformation, not just of your skills, but particularly the roles and the relationships between 4 things: power, attitudes, trust, and safety. Now, you might be thinking, yeah, that's okay for you to say, Karen, you're heavily invested in this, and hand on my heart, I admit that. But in the middle of February, we conducted a pilot program and we invited 26 people. Well, we invited 42 actually, but 26 were able to manage it with their workloads, and 26 people took part in that pilot program. And that's where we learnt more about the participant experiences and their expectations, and also where we were pitching things on these claims of this being different. And we've incorporated that feedback into the current version of the program. But don't just take my word for it. You're now going to hear from 2 of those participants. Thanks, Roy, and thanks, Trevor.
Thanks, Karen. And just to add to Karen, the other innovation for this training is that we've integrated Patricia Benner's framework from novice to expert, which is a very common framework that's used within nursing, and more so in nursing than in midwifery, to help to provide a framework across the stages. And this training has been pitched at level 2, Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, of Benner's, and is not linear. So even though Benner's model goes linear, this very much goes circular. And that's speaking from my own personal and professional experience as an Aboriginal registered nurse, is that I continue to move across the cultural safety continuum, as well as Patricia Benner's competency continuum as well, and still today, 25 years as an Aboriginal registered nurse, and still learning new things. So thank you very much, Karen. Would now like to introduce someone who most of you may know, and that's Adjunct Professor Greg Rickard, and he's an academic at the University of Tasmania, but he was also the former Chief Nursing and Midwifery Officer in Tasmania. Unfortunately, Greg was unable to join us, but has pre-recorded a message for us to share with you today. Thanks, Tom.
Good afternoon, I'm Greg Rickard, coming to you from Gubbi Gubbi country in the beautiful Sunshine Coast. I pay my respects to the elders past and present, and any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who have joined us today. The land, rivers, skies and oceans have and will always be Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander land. I'm a registered nurse who has had the privilege of working with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people for over 3 decades. In Western Sydney with the Darug people at Blacktown Mount Druitt Health, as the Principal Nursing and Midwifery Advisor for the Northern Territory Health, and more recently assisting with the implementation of the University of Tasmania's strategic plan for Aboriginal engagement across the College of Health and Medicine. So my expectations and experience during the pilot. I have for many years been concerned about the implementation of cultural awareness, cultural sensitivity and/or cultural competency programs across many organisations facilitated by non-Indigenous educators. Programs have been about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, their health deficits and their disenfranchisement. Yet again, the microscope was turned onto our First Nations people, and yet again, they are identified as the problem. This blame the victim is rife in Western culture and is unhelpful. The pilot immediately addresses this problem and challenges white and non-Indigenous practitioners to understand cultural safety from a power perspective. The culture of power, how we develop our attitudes based on this power, and how cultural safety and cultural humility cannot exist without the trust from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. The Murra Mullangari program takes us all on a journey, no matter what our knowledge and experience we may have of working with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. I'm asked to reflect on my practice and what learnings I need now and in the future. So my vision for nursing and midwifery workforce. Cultural safety and cultural humility is determined by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So a dialogue must exist so we understand the impact of our practice and care on our First Nations people. Cultural safety also acknowledges the history of colonisation and racism within nursing and midwifery, and lastly strives to increase the participation of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in organisational structures and processes. I'm hopeful that most nurses and midwives will undertake the Murra Mullangari Pathways to Health and that their journey is rich and rewarding. That together with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, we can start to understand and address the many factors impacting on closing the gap on health inequalities between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. Only together, black and white, will we achieve cultural safety and cultural humility. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you very much. That's Greg there. And look, fantastic. I see this as a fantastic tool, the Murra Mullangari. The tool itself is a bridge builder, you could say, and between black and white and helping our nurses and midwives have a platform and a successful pathway to their success. And we need more black successes out here, and CATSInam's doing their bit in that field. So thank you very much. I'll take this opportunity now to introduce Sister Dallas McKeown, speaking on sharing the experience of being a pilot participant of the Murra Mullangari and expectations. Sister.
Thank you, Brother Trevor there. Another man up here in Cairns country. Yama everybody. Thank you for the opportunity, Roy Ann, for speaking this afternoon as a participant of the pilot project. I think I'd just reinforce what you've said. This isn't a cultural awareness program. This is far superior to that. This is about self-reflection. This is about you digging deep personally and challenging yourself. At times putting yourself in a vulnerable place, and that's cool because you learn when you're in that vulnerable place. You learn from it, you want to learn more from it. You get to look through a different lens, and it makes you, it challenges you to look through a different lens, which I really enjoyed. The definition and the defining of humility and what it means personally and in the bigger picture is really important, and you can really reflect on that. Some of the things that I really enjoyed about the program was the time commitment that Karen was talking about. And you know, you can say it's 1 hour over 8 weeks. You actually get to a place where you just want it all and you want it now, and you really get into it and you're thinking, I've got other stuff to do. That could be washing up, or it could be your work or whatever, but you actually push that to the side and go, this is really important and I'm really enjoying it. So you stay in that space. The platform is really easy to use. I'm very IT challenged, and I found it easy to work through. The support from the other end, from CATSInam and through Karen, was just top notch. I can't say anything about it. I'm sure there was lots of questions that I put out there that were always responded to with a roll of an eye, because it was a bit like, how doogie is she? But it was good to be doogie in that situation. You have the ability to actually keep notes, take notes and keep notes, and so you can reflect on them later on. My one takeaway very clearly for me was cultural safety with a capital C and a capital S. And when you do this and you come away afterwards, you'll be saying capital C, capital S. And I just want to end by saying this Murra Mullangari is like a really good curry. It leaves you wanting more. And I thank you for the opportunity to participate. Thank you, Royanne.
Thank you, my sister, too, Deadly Dallas, and look, fantastic. And coming from experience, yes, being a pilot participant, fantastic. And like I said, more deeper than just a course as such. Bridge builder, yes, but empowers our nurses and midwives on their journey, and also educating our non-Indigenous brothers and sisters as well, and regarding stamp out racism. Empowering our nurses and our midwives to become the best that they can be. It's a fantastic tool as such. Listen, a kind reminder to the delegates, this Zoom conference today is being recorded. So just to put that to your attention. I believe we are doing a quiz now, just to confirm that with Kazi Roy.
Correct.
Okay, just a question to delegates is a quiz by 2 questions, announce 2 questions, and announce the results of the poll. Just confirming, looking for those questions. My apologies.
They're coming up on the screen now, Trev.
Okay, lovely. Yep.
And we did start a bit late, so I just want to acknowledge that we are running a few minutes late. I do hope that you can stay with this, because immediately following the poll, we've got our learning and teaching design lead who's actually going to show you the platform. And that's a really important aspect of today, for you to be able to see just the ease of access, but the professionalism and the standard and clarity that's on the platform. So we do hope that you can stay with us, but remind you that it is being recorded if you wanted to watch it at a later time and you did need to leave. And again, thank you for joining us today on this important day. Thanks, Trev.
Okay, thank you. Question 1, true or false? Cultural safety is only for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And question 2, true or false? Cultural humility involves hindsight, insight, and foresight as a natural part of your practice. And so the launch of questions, please. I want to thank the participants for participating in the polls. I'd like to take this time now to introduce Gainishan. Forgive my pronunciation. Rayon, Learning and Teaching Consultant, Senior Project Officer with CATSINaM. Gainishan.
Thank you, Trevor. Okay, thank you, everyone. It has been a great pleasure to be part of this project. So my task now would be to take you through a journey as a learner would go through. So I'll be sharing my screen now. Give me a sec. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. So when anyone has expressed interest in joining the program, they are taken to the Murra Mullangari Introduction to Cultural Safety and Cultural Humility landing page. And the link is in the chat. So you arrive at that landing page. You get some information, some videos to watch, and then there is an opportunity for you to register. When you register, click registration, it takes you to the registration and login page. And this is how the Access IQ platform looks like. And when you arrive at this site for the first time, you will get an opportunity to create your own account. So you create an account. Using that account, you then log in. It's a simple process of putting an email address and a password. And once you log in, you land in the course and where the student console appears. For the purpose of this demonstration, I had to complete doing the course. So In my case, it's showing as completed course, whereas if you are first year, it will be showing as enrolled course. And so that is the course. It will appear like that. It is online, learning activities. It's simple to click show, which will take you to all the modules and the parts within the program. So we have a welcome page and then module 1, 2, and 3. If you are here for the first time, it will say get started. And when you click on to say welcome page, it will take you to the welcome page of the program, which commences with acknowledge to country. Auntie Matilda provides that, and you have watched that video a little earlier. And Auntie Dulcie welcoming to the program. And the logo story of CATSINaM. To navigate the platform, once we are in the welcome page or in a module, either we can go through these dots to navigate through, or you could move to the next page. So I'll just move you through here. So that's next page, where there's a lot of information about nursing and midwifery leadership, how it has evolved, and the key people that are in this field. Then we move on to the program. You have heard from Dr. Karen Martin as the lead education and training lead. She's also giving here a video of welcome to program. In this program, when we were designing it, we made sure that every activity content has some meaning to it. So you will experience various icons coming through. So wherever there is an icon like this, it's a video to watch, some resources to read, something to think about, to apply to a practice, something to write, and there is an assessment and a light bulb to reflect, like wow factor, something that has clicked to you, a key message or takeaway to take with you. We also have a feature called Add Note all throughout the program. As you write notes for yourself, this is the feature that you will be using. We have also built in, with the help of XSIQ platform creators, a glossary. And all throughout the content, wherever we felt there was a key phrase or key term that would be important for the learner to engage with, then there is a highlight, and it will take you to that particular part in the glossary. Now, at the top of each module, there is the EndNote button and a bookmark. And your bookmark feature is to come at a later point to engage. Upon completion of the welcome page, then you go to module 1. And module 1, each module will have a welcome page, or the first, where it spells out the topics, gives an estimated time, 2 hours, and the number of the learning outcomes for that. Now, the important thing here is for each module, we have provided a pre-module activity just for a self-assessment. What terms have you heard, for example, what you already know? So there is an activity and you do that. Each activity involves a doing part. So you do something, read, watch, or get engaged with the content. And you spend a few minutes to think about it, you reflect, and there are some questions that are being prompted. And to reflect, you write those reflection notes in the Add Note tool. Upon completion of one module, you will have a chance then to do a quiz, which is a set of questions. Now, the purpose of this quiz is to help you recall or understand or assess what you have gone through in the module. There are 10 multiple choice questions. The way we have designed it, it is available for you to do multiple times. It's not a punitive measure, but the reason why we have given unlimited attempts is so that you can learn while you are doing. After completing each module, you will get a badge and a certificate I'll show in a second. So this is now module 2. In various parts of the module, like this one I was showing you as an example of highlight the term you click, that is the definition that pops up, which is the meaning of it. And if you need to go to the full glossary, it takes you to the full glossary. Either you can browse or you can read at that particular point. There are various models that we are presenting in this program. And this is an example of the historical evolution that has happened in nursing and midwifery education. And these are also supported by an animation video. I'll just play a few seconds. Okay, so having done that module, you now move on to the next module, which is the last one. As Karen explained, this program has got a lot of application in practice. We have inbuilt scenario practice-based learning. Here's an example of a character, non-Indigenous registered nurse, and there are other characters in there, including, say, for example, here, non-Indigenous nurse, and finally, a non-Indigenous, an Indigenous registered nurse. To play these videos, either you play in the embedded location, or you can go to YouTube channel where it is hosted in the YouTube and enlarge your screen to watch. To conclude the program, it's very important to understand, and we have heard throughout from earlier speakers as well as from Karen, this program is the starting point, and we are concluding with that it is a concept of lifelong learning, all aspects of cultural humility, from hindsight to insight to foresight. And it concludes with Auntie Dulcie's explanation about her life journey, the milestones in your nursing and midwifery career, how we can put into application. Okay, so at the end, once you complete the assessment, after each module, you get access to a badge, and you can claim a badge for each module. That's for module 2, and that's for module 3, as well as completion of the program and a sample certificate. So this has been a very good experience for me personally, being involved in designing and developing this program. Having come from Fiji and having worked in education here, I was looking forward to getting involved in this program. And I'm now talking from the Jagera country here, and I pay respect to that country where I'm functioning from, Trevor. It has been a transformation for me personally when I started working in this course, in this field with CATSINaM. I felt like an evolution. I didn't know what I didn't know. Then it came to a point I began to know what I didn't know. And then moving up to a stage where I know what I know. And it is not only what I know, it is a lifelong process of learning and becoming humble. And that cultural humility is such a beautiful thing to understand and practice. Thank you.
Ganesh, and thank you so very much. And we are all students for life, are we not? When you look at that fantastic, it's user friendly. I'm looking at the course there, which is great for people like Dallas and I, who are IT not savvy. You know, I always say white fella make it, black fella break it. But I remember using that statement at the gym just recently, and the non-Indigenous brother said to me, "No, Trev, yellow fella make it, white fella, black fella break it." So, look, fantastic. Thank you very much, and it is a powerful tool in that sense. I'd like to take this opportunity now to introduce Anisali Gul Widri, Anisali Gul Widri, and CATSINaM founder from Little Things, Big Things Grow.
From little things, big things grow, and that's what's happened as far as CATSIN is concerned. That was and is my greatest reward, seeing the growth of CATSIN. The greatest challenge. It was all a challenge, that we needed to make the environment safe for Indigenous nurses. We set about changing that. We were a little isolated group surviving. That was the greatest challenge, surviving as CATSIN. I think we still all need to work together more. Have to keep going and fighting for Indigenous issues and Indigenous nursing. Happy anniversary. I'm thinking of you all, and it would be my pleasure to meet you. Keep your eye on the prize, and what a prize it is, it's wonderful.
Mute, Trev. Mute.
Oregon fired up here. I mean, talk about motivate the motivate. Anisali Gul, thank you so very much. And success breeds success. And as I said earlier, that we need more Black successes in nurses and midwifery, and enjoy that journey. Now we have more powerful tools to educate our non-Indigenous brothers and sisters as well. We are all in the same vehicle, heading in the same direction. So powerful. I'd like to now bring on Kazi Royan in the closing. Thank you, Sissy.
Thanks very much, Trev, and thank you very much again, everyone, for joining us for today's very special ceremony. Again, a momentous occasion for this organisation on its 25th birthday. I can see Annie Dulcie Flower has joined us. Aunt, it's an absolute honour and a pleasure to have you here, and we thank you for joining us today and walking alongside us as our next stage of the organisation's journey. Please enrol. Enrolments are now open, and please follow CATSINAM's journey on social media. As we showcase 25 years of collective activism for the organisation, and also 25 acts of individual activism that have also impacted on the work that CATSINAM continues to lead. And if you've got time to stay on, we want to share with you one last song, and we ask you to take time to reflect. Murra Mullangari is an 8-hour training program. It's I wouldn't even say it's the beginning. I would say it's complementary to the work that's happening in our undergraduate programs. We now have a mandatory undergraduate course, which is at an AQF level 6, but it very much is the beginning of a suite of educational and training innovations that CATSINAM will lead across the next couple of years at all. I want to take the opportunity to thank Trev for emceeing and guiding us through today's ceremony, and I also want to thank publicly everyone's contributions to the development of Murra Mullangari, which goes back to, actually, believe it or not, 2018 was when the program was actually funded, but there's been a phenomenal amount of Indigenous and non-Indigenous knowledges that have contributed to the program where it is. So please join us and enrol in the program. Particularly encourage you to take part in the research aspect of the program so that we can start to build an evidence about what works and what doesn't in this area to ensure that Australia truly has a culturally safe nursing and midwifery practice towards improved outcomes for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So thank you very much, everybody.